Alright, welcome back to a new video. Today, we want to talk about why it's so hard to change some of our habits sometimes. Why it's hard to create a new healthy habit, and why it's hard to quit an unhealthy habit. In the book The Power of Habit, there's this little representations of the habit loop, of how habits work. There's a trigger, something that triggers the beginning of the habit. There's the habit itself, and then the reward. And people lost their mind over the system. They're like, oh my god, he cracked the code. And then they came into the point where they needed to really put that into action, and that's when they realized that there is something missing. And there was something missing, in fact. Because when we talk about the loop, the trigger, the habit, and the reward, we need to ask ourselves, what kind of connection do we have with the loop? Now, if we take two people, let's say two people are trying to go to the gym, but they aren't able to, and they both did the exact same thing, they might get different results. Because it's all about our perception, our feelings, and our emotions. How we feel towards the trigger, how we feel towards the habit, and how we feel towards the reward. So, picture the loop in front of you, alright? Trigger, habit, and then results. If you have positive emotions, especially dopamine, for example, that's a motivational hormone, happiness and excitement associated with the trigger, that as soon as you encounter the trigger, you get uplifted, you get pumped up. That means you have established positive emotions with the trigger. And then the habit itself is something you enjoy doing. Something that brings you joy, happiness, calmness, whatever it is, right? Again, you link positive emotions to the habit itself, and then the reward is you feeling yourself progressing. You feel that you're proud, that you're keeping up with the habit, or the reward that the habit makes you feel more energized and more refreshed, whatever. You get the point. If positive emotions are basically connected to each and every segment in the loop, you got a solid habit. There's no reason for you to stop because it just feels so good. On the other hand, let's take an example where negative emotions is associated with the habit loop. If the trigger brings you negative emotions, you're not going to go to the habit. Reason being is, as soon as the trigger comes up, you feel those negative emotions. You feel that it's unpleasant, and it prevents you from wanting to do the habit, because as human beings, we want to avoid pain and embrace pleasure, and we want to avoid any situation that can put us into emotional pain, and instead go towards a safer one. Now, some people, even if the trigger is associated with negative emotions, they might end up doing the habit anyways. Reason being is because since they felt a frustration with the trigger that brought negative emotions, they want to compensate. Human beings want to avoid pain and embrace pleasure. And if the habit is associated with enough pleasure and enough positive emotions, you will fall back into it. Now, something beautiful happens when the habit is now also associated with negative emotions. You get the trigger, negative. You don't like it. It feels bad. You get into the habit, but it's not that fulfilling anymore. You don't like it. There's a lot of reasons behind why you want it to stop, and you just don't want to do it anymore. It makes you feel bad, it makes you feel unworthy, whatever. But now we get to the reward. If the reward was associated with a lot of positive emotions, guess what? You're gonna get through the trigger all the way to the habit to get to the reward. The reward is one of the parts that are the most fundamental. Like, if you break the reward, let's put it another way. But first, let me finish the example that if there's positive emotions associated with the reward, you are going to fall back into the loop. However, if there are negative emotions and feelings associated with the reward itself, then even if the trigger and the habits are associated with something positive, what would happen is that the pain we get out of reaching that reward is now a lot greater than the pleasure we're experiencing through the trigger and the habit, and basically associate negative feelings with each and every one of the sections, with the trigger, with the habit, and with the reward. But it can be as simple as associating a lot of negative emotions with the reward. Because when the trigger hits, you get a rush of dopamine in your system, and dopamine is the motivational hormone that makes you seek instant gratifications and stuff that don't need a lot of work, all right? And as soon as it hits, you're not going to be motivated to pursue something and get a reward that brings you a lot of pain and discomfort. Obviously, you're going to look at other options. And this is where you start building similar habits that are a bit healthier. Instead of watching TV for 4 hours a day, you take 2 hours and then you read a book. Or maybe you take that entire time and you read the book. And when you get to a point where after spending 2 hours in front of the TV, the reward starts turning into pain and discomfort and stress, you can take yourself off the couch and go do something else. Otherwise, do you just want to sit there and keep feeling worse and worse and worse? It's not how it works. When you feel bad, when you feel down, when you feel discomfort, you feel stress, you want to do something, anything, to get out of this into a more positive state. So what I want you to do is use the habit loop. So put the trigger, whatever your habit you're trying to change or install, take the trigger, then take the habit itself, what you want to do, and take the reward. And ask yourself, do you have enough positive emotions associated with each and every one of those if you're trying to create a new habit? And if you're trying to change it, do you have enough negative emotions associated with the trigger, with the habit, and with the reward? And if not, how can you do it? All right? Now this is a long topic, and this is probably something we're going to talk about in another video. If you want to know more about it, make sure you subscribe. I'm going to probably be releasing the video in about a week and a half or two. But now, to sum it up, there is another ingredient that makes the habit loop formula whole, which is at the center of it is emotion. And emotion is associated with each and every trigger, with each and every habit, with each and every reward. And that makes all the difference between the habits we do on a daily basis and the habits that we have a hard time establishing. And now go prepare your habit loop and link the emotions. See where the problem is and start working towards a solution. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up, subscribe button below, and I'll see you all in the next video.